For Global Business Update, Michael Wilson joins us now from London. Good morning, Michael.
Morning. We look at the Asia-Pacific markets as we always do. First of all, China's back from holiday. Chinese markets down just a little bit this morning. Their manufacturing failed to excite, but the main news, of course, was the Fed yesterday, which, as most people expected, raised interest rates by 25 basis points, by 0.25%. That's the 10th time it's done it. So therefore, not so much there was no surprise. I didn't find a surprise at all in them raising rates. It's a question of where they are in the cycle and whether this is the last one. This is the big guess that investors are actually doing. Now, US lawmakers have written to companies that manufacture in China, more specifically in the Uyghur province of China. And we're talking about Temu, we're talking about Shine, we're talking about Adidas, and we're talking about Nike as well. US lawmakers have written to all those companies saying, we want to examine the working conditions of where those people are actually working right now, and you have until June the 16th to let us know about that. You'll know all about the criticisms of working conditions in the Uyghur province. So we've often covered those on this program before. Now, China, as I mentioned, back from holiday today. So the real question is, what did its internal travel plans actually transpire and show about the economy? Fact is that internal Chinese tourism did rather well. Domestic trips were up by 2/3 on pandemic levels. So that's actually supposed to be quite good. So China is returning to normality as well. And this service sector is really helping an economy which, as you know, is relatively soft as far as property is concerned, and as I've just mentioned, fairly soft as far as manufacturing is concerned as well. South Korea, an interesting tie-up continuing. They did have ties with Japan. They're trying to restore those. Their finance minister, Chu Kyung-ho, has been talking about the way in which South Korea needs to reconnect with Japan. And also, but mainly, not so much about its politics, but mainly about its trading ties and its trading relationship. India. Now, India is buying cheap Russian oil. There's no question about that. But India is probably on track to be, probably, if I can put it like that, the most populous country in the world in the 2050s. They are looking at Russia. They're looking at China. They're wondering whether or not they want to get involved with either of these countries any further. They're not completely happy that Russia and China are joining together. But anyway, that's the sort of thing that India is thinking about right now. But what India is getting is cheap Russian crude. As far as the US is concerned, then, so no surprises as far as that interest rate decision yesterday. As I say, the 10th time they've raised the question is this the last time, or is there more to come? All I can tell you is, and you've probably read this elsewhere as well, if you follow these kind of things, that the language from the Fed was slightly softer than it was before. But again, it's all very opaque. No central bank actually tells, unless it's got its head screwed on the wrong way, tells you exactly what it's thinking right now. It always tends to bring those up as a bit of a surprise. But the tone is generally softer. Now, Apple reports today. This is going to be really interesting as well, because we'll find out a number of things about from Apple. A, whether they're manufacturing or not. B, the success of their stores that they just opened in India, which you know about, and also the scale of the buyback, which is going to be quite extraordinary. They think it's going to be around about $90 billion. That's a buyback of shares and also dividends as well. It is the world's leading buyback proponent. I can just give you some figures: $572 billion in the past 10 years. The nearest to them is the second rate, which is Alphabet, which is $175 billion. So that's what those results will be looked at relatively keenly today. Credit Suisse. Right, Credit Suisse in Switzerland. Now, the merger between UBS and Credit Suisse, obviously UBS, the major partner. Will it work? I don't know. I suspect there will be a lot of problems. But the fact of the matter is that now Asia investors are suing the Swiss regulator because the Swiss forced this match together, and the bonds which Credit Suisse was forced to take out, and people therefore took out for Credit Suisse, particularly Asian investors, are now worth nothing, and they're suing the Swiss authorities. Good luck with that. The World Bank. Now we've again talked about this before. Unfortunately, well, from your point of view, unfortunately, we don't know about the rest of the world. The Biden appointee is taking the job. Ajay Banga, he's ex-MasterCard. It was always expected that the US would probably have the final say on this because they're the major shareholder in the World Bank. But the big problems that he will face, where does climate change actually fall into this? The developing countries of the world are saying that they need at least $1 trillion to help them through climate change. That really will be the role of the World Bank and how it will actually navigate between those sorts of concerns of growth and also climate change as well in developing nations. I'm going to bring back to the UK Vodafone and CK Hutchison. Now, this is Hutchison who owned the Three UK network. They're thinking of joining together. It'll be the country's biggest mobile phone operator, 28 million customers. You will not be surprised to learn that whilst this may or may not happen, the fact of the matter is the competition authorities are going to be very interested in this. So it's by no means a done deal. The UK competition authorities are also looking at AI. We talked about this a little yesterday. We don't know where AI is going. The language you will recognize from the United States, the competition authority is looking at maybe putting guardrails on AI as we speak, but that's got a long way to go before that actually happens. It's the local election day today in the UK. Starmer and Sunak will go head to head. As far as this is considered a good indicator of where the general election, which is a year hence, will actually go. And it looks as though the Conservatives will get absolutely trounced, as they probably imagine. Labour needs to do exceptionally well in these local elections to prove it is a party of power. 250 local councils, 8,000 seats coming up for election, and we'll be voting just straight after this. Oil again falling actually very slightly on worries about whether or not the US economy is and the driving season is going to take place and what the consumption will be and all the rest of it. Gold, as you can appreciate, any kind of risk attracts people to gold because it's even a safe haven. And Bitcoin as well. I mentioned Bitcoin basically because while there's a ceiling on Bitcoin of about 30,000 right now. Where is that going to go as far as central banking risk is concerned? There is considerable worry about regional banks in the United States. Is this helping Bitcoin? It should, but it isn't so far. That is the global view.
Well, thank you very much, Michael Wilson. Unfortunately, so much to talk about, from Ajay Banga to other issues that you raised. But we seem to have run out of time.